What's up, YouTube? It's Mir. I'm back with another video, and in today's vid I'm coming at y'all talking about a guy who I believe could have been, should have been, and would have been a top 5 point guard of all time if he had not got hurt. Now, for starters, I'm not a huge stats guy. I'm not a huge looker when it goes into accolades and everything. But for me, I'm going to give you guys my top 5 point guards of all time. Number 1, as of right now. And when I say this, these are like my best point guards, stats wise, accolades, the way they played, how I saw them when I look at their games. You got Magic Johnson, Steph Curry, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, and Isaiah Thomas. And it's the Isaiah Thomas from that Cleveland, or not that Cleveland. And for these guys, they're the top 5 point guards to me because I like to see how they played. I enjoyed their play. I believe that they got the ball and they spaced the floor enough for everybody. I believe that these players are guys who changed the game in their own sense. They embody what a point guard is, and that is a general of the floor, regardless of if you have the ball or if you don't. Consider what you guys believe about Steph. Steph is so lethal that he commands the court, he commands the floor. He is a general in his own right. So to me, Steph is definitely there. And the guy that I'm talking about today, who is a top 5 point guard of all time, had he not got hurt, is Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose, in year 3, won MVP. In that year, he averaged 25 points, 7.7 assists, 4.1 rebounds, and a steal per game. Think about that. He did that in 2010, 2011 when stats weren't extremely easy to come by. He did that at what age? 22 years old. The age I am right now, he did that. He was crazy. And I know he didn't have a long career. The year after that, he only played in 39 games. He got hurt, obviously, but he was decent from there. And it's a blessing to even see Derrick Rose play as much as he does, because he shouldn't be who he is, right? He shouldn't still be playing basketball, but he is. And in his own right, he is a what-if story, but he's also a miracle story because he's still playing to this day. He's still doing what he needs to do out there, and he's had a long, illustrious career thus far, and he'll probably make the Hall of Fame since he was an MVP player. And this is his, 15th year in the league, I want to say. So he's good himself. But I just wanted to compare him to other guys, the other top 5 guys that I looked at. Magic Johnson in his 3rd year, right? Magic Johnson in his 3rd year averaged 18.6 points, 9.5 assists, 9.6 rebounds, 2.7 steals on 53% from the field in 36 minutes of play. That's incredible. That's amazing. He was doing what he needed to do. The game was in a different space at the time, but it's not to take it away from him because he was also in that space at another time. I hate when people talk about the NBA being played at a different time period, so it's not as accomplishable, because it doesn't make sense to me in the fact that they were also playing at that time. So no matter if you want to say guys were not as good, they shouldn't have been as good either. They were also playing when Converse were the sneaker of choice, bro. They were also doing that. So to me, it is always disrespectful when I hear people talking about them and speaking on them in a negative way, because they are just as good as these guys before in their own respective right. Obviously, just lacing them up, they're not right now, because they just didn't have the different skill sets that they have of today. But in terms of equity, being equitable with both of the eras, I believe Magic is the best of all time. Now, Steph Curry, he in his third year averaged 18.6 points, 5.8 assists, 3.9 rebounds, 1.5 steals on 46% from the field, 44% from three, and 36 minutes of play. That was 1 year. That was literally only 1 year before Derrick Rose won his MVP. They came into the league around the same time. And obviously, D Rose was killing the league. Steph Curry, he had got hurt a year before. He was still coming into his own. He obviously could shoot the ball at a high clip. 44% is ridiculous at any time in the NBA. But we knew who was the better player at the time. Now for Chris Paul, he's another guy. To me, when you look at those absolute peaks, Chris Paul has one of a top 3 peaks in terms of point guards for me personally. In his third year in the league, he averaged 21 points, 11 and a half assists, 4 rebounds, and almost 3 steals on 49% from the field, 36.5% from 3, and 37 minutes. The people of today don't know about that Hornets Chris Paul. He was ridiculous. I looked at his stats. I've seen his play. He was dunking the ball, passing the ball. He was super fast. He's one of the smartest players that you'll ever see, even at that young, early age. He commanded the floor always, and there was no doubt in my mind that he was one of those guys when you look at who's the best player in the NBA or who's the best point guard in the NBA. He was right there with Steve Nash and those guys, Rondo and those guys, if not clearly beating them. So for me personally, Chris Paul at that time was insane, and it showed his numbers. You could debate that his numbers are actually better than Derrick Rose's at that time. Now for Westbrook in his third year, which was the same year that Rose was in his third year, he averaged 22 points, 8 assists, 4.6 rebounds, 1.9 steals on 44% from the field, and 35 minutes to play. He's still also not better than D Rose at the time, but he is comparable. And he played with Kevin Durant, who was also a beast himself at this point. But you see what Westbrook became. He ends up being a triple-double threat. He ends up being the greatest player in Thunder franchise history. He ends up being a top 5 point guard of all time. If you want to debate that, you can. But for me, he's a top 5 point guard of all time. He's one of, if not the greatest point guard that our generation saw, outside of Steph Curry, obviously. But in terms of his individual stats, he's done something that no other player has ever been able to do, and that's break Oscar Robertson's triple-double record. We know the story. We know who he is. He's also one of those why can't I be the MVP of the league type of guys. Much respect to him. Lastly, I got Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas, to me, I didn't get to see him play, but I watched him play as I've gotten older, and he was an absolute dog himself. In his third year in the league, he averaged 21.2 points, 11 assists, 4.5 rebounds, 2.5 steals, 46% from the field, and 38.5 minutes. He had an incredible season compared to any of these guys. He's one of those dogs. He killed. He had a handle like no other. He led those Pistons teams to championships later on in his career. And he was incredible in his own right. And he was incredible his whole entire career. And that was just the beginning of it with that third season. You see what he did, and you see what all of these other guys have done. And all of this is to say, I'm not saying that Derrick Rose is better than all of those guys or anything like that. But what I'm saying is all of these players had the opportunity to grow. And they had the opportunity to be who they were in the league because they didn't have crazy injuries like Derrick Rose did with his knee. And Derrick Rose continuously hurt himself over and over again. Torn ACL, torn meniscus, torn ACL, torn meniscus. He continuously did it. I know Westbrook did tear his meniscus, I believe, but he came back. He was able to come back and return, and that's great for him. But I just believe that if if Derrick Rose had that opportunity to never get hurt on that play, oh my goodness, in Philly, that play still haunts me to this day. If he never gets hurt in that play, who knows what Derrick Rose actually becomes. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Do you guys think Derrick Rose would have been a top 5 point guard of all time if he didn't get hurt? That's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed. That's just from my eyes to yours. I'll see you guys in the next one.